There are relatively few prepared to challenge many of the claims that are actually being peddled as truth today. One of them is Barrington Martin II. Now, he's a previous Georgia Congressional candidate. He's a writer, a philosopher, and host of the Barrington Report. And I'm absolutely delighted to have him join us tonight. Barrington, thank you for joining me on Bernardi. Now, you first caught my attention with a paragraph that you wrote on your blog, and I want to read it. It says, admittance is the first step to recovery and forgiveness is the first step to reconciliation. These two concepts create the foundation for the catalyst of change that is desperately needed within our great nation lives. There is no brand of politics that will save you. Your political party won't save you. There is not a politician within any political party that will deliver you from your problems or the despair you may feel in life right now. The truth is that so many people have neglected their primary responsibility in life and placed the onus on others to handle said responsibility. And the responsibility? Yourself. Now, those words struck a chord with me, Barrington. In a time when everyone is looking to blame everyone else for their own failings, it struck me this is a revolutionary thought. Why do you feel the need to push the personal responsibility narrative so strongly?
I feel this way because I feel like we've had a tendency over the last 4 to 8 years to absolve ourselves of our own personal responsibility and accountability. I would never thought that in my adult life I would see that people will rely on government for the things that they rely on government for. In reading your editorial that you sent me this morning, I realized that the problem that I thought was a solely American problem is actually an international problem. And if we don't get this under wraps right now, then we are literally going to be in a world of trouble.
Well, Barrington, you make an excellent point. But for those of us who don't live in the United States of America, we know that this is an international problem because whilst America is the biggest probably example of it, politicians right around the world are loath to deal with the difficult issues of personal responsibility, of actually solving problems. So they try and come up with these broad brush frameworks to absolve themselves of responsibility. We see that here in Australia, but it's particularly egregious in America, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. See, what I've seen that's taken place over the last, I would say, decade or so is that politicians understood or have understand at this point in time that they can easily emotionally galvanize the people that they govern. And oftentimes they deliver these false promises that never get a chance to be delivered or well received by the people. And at this point in time, what's going to happen or what has been happening is that people tend to absolve themselves of their personal responsibility and attempt to make the politicians or force the politicians to do the things that they want them to do. And what they're not understanding is the more that you are asking politicians to do for you what you can do for yourself is that you're giving up senses of freedoms and all the liberties that you once had. And so what I've noticed in my lifetime, in my short lifetime, is that freedom, the definition of freedom that I once remembered or how freedom looked when I was a child, it no longer exists anymore. And I think that ultimately, as a human race, we've always had standards that we always had to adhere to, no matter at what point and period in human life. Now, those standards and that bar has been lowered so low to the point to where we have sacrificed things like logic and facts for acceptance, inclusions, and feelings. And facts will always matter more over feelings.
Yeah, it's quite incredible that it's about not offending people anymore because somehow it might make them feel bad about their own life choices. But one thing that struck me, you've had a lot of pushback in social media because you're pushing the accountability. You've also talked about the importance of fathers in families and raising boys in particular in black communities in America. But when Barack Obama did this, wrote about it and spoke about it, it was celebrated and said what a genius it is. But today, you're receiving a lot of opprobrium because you're saying fathers are important and fatherlessness is contributing to some of the problems in the States.
Absolutely. See, what's happening is that, again, and I always have to draw back to this, over the last 8 to 10 years, we've seen an absolute attack on masculinity and manhood. And so when President Obama said it was okay, and now due to these movements like Me Too, due to the Black Lives Matter movement that totally wanted to withdraw the importance of fathers within the nuclear family unit, we see this push for men to be less masculine and more feminine. And over time, and with the issues that you have seen within the United States over the last 4 years, even currently with mass shootings, with a lot of these kids who are troubled, they lack a positive male influence in their lives. And so I think that ultimately, as I continue to push the things that we need, it is striking a nerve with people because it's the truth, and it is an unfortunate truth that they are unwilling to accept.
Yeah, that's very much true. I remember I wrote a book, I quoted Barack Obama, and I was abused by all the militant lefties here in Australia until, of course, I pointed out it was their great hero, Barack Obama, whose words I was using. Now, I also saw a tweet that you sent out this week about our obsession with acceptance and societal rot. Have we actually lost the capacity for critical thinking, and what do you think needs to be done and can be done about it?
I don't think we've lost our capacity for critical thinking. I just think that we don't care about it anymore, because I think that there's been a much more of an emphasis placed on feelings more so than fact. I think that we've been so overly indulgent. I feel that we have totally adhered to our personal sense of decadence, that we just really don't care anymore. And what is going to end up happening because of this is that we're going to see a lot of the structures that have once been the foundations for all of our societies over humanity begin to fall. We see that a lot of women don't have agency over their own spaces anymore because of our adherence to what people feel. We see that children aren't even protected anymore, again, because of the adherence to how people feel. I think that the logical side of society can't allow this to happen anymore. We have to just put our foot down and be stern and diligent in the things that needs to be taken care of the most and needs to be protected the most. And I think that ultimately we'll get back on track, because if you haven't noticed, the pendulum is swinging back towards the other side. But I don't want there to be an overcorrection like there's been now. I want the pendulum to swing or have some type of adequate balance to where we can all come together at the table and state that this is what's going to happen, this is how it's going to happen, and we cannot deal with this nonsense anymore.
Well, I know there'll be many of my viewers that'll be cheering on those words because we need it to happen in America. We need it to happen here in Australia too, because unfortunately, for the good and the bad, but unfortunately in this case, we tend to follow you down these rabbit holes to our own detriment over the course of time. Barrington Martin II, you are a very courageous man, and thank you very much for your time and joining me on Bernardi tonight.
Thank you so much, Cory. You guys take care. You have a nice one.